Hey everyone, it's Andrew Brown and welcome back for another video. And I'm going to tell you right now, this one is going to be a very hard one if we make any mistakes. So we'll do our best to not make any mistakes because we're writing the custom Terraform provider. And I just want to preface this, if you find this very difficult and you can't get it into working state and Go is giving you a lot of trouble, you can always copy the code from my repo because it is a single file. But do your best to follow along here because it's going to be of your benefit to try and do this. I already have the code off screen, but I'm going to try to write it from scratch here and show you the process of, okay, I don't know how to use Golang. How can I utilize this with my base programming knowledge? And you might not have the same kind of programming knowledge as me, but I'll show you what I would do when I'm working with something that I'm not 100% confident with. So we are here and we'll have to make ourselves a new issue. This might be a long video, by the way. We'll make a new issue here. We'll say Terraform, or sorry, Terra Towns provider, okay? And I'm not even gonna make a list here because it's just gonna be too long and I'm not 100% sure what I wanna do there. You should really document what it is that you want it to be. This, of course, is an enhancement. Normally, what we should be doing is making this in a separate repo, but we are making the Terra Towns provider within the current repo. And this might be how we want to have it. It really just depends. Like if we go back to Terraform Cloud, might have some trouble running the provider on Terraform or Terraform Cloud, and we might have to work through some solutions here. But for the time being, we're going to have it in the repo that we're working in. I'm going to go ahead and create ourselves our new branch. Okay. And sorry, we are going to go ahead. Why does it look like, oh, it did create it. Okay. We'll go over here. We'll drop this on down and we will open up our new branch and we'll go get pod. We'll go ahead and continue. So what I'm going to do is just close out some of my tabs while this is launching. I'll be back in just a moment, okay? All right, so our environment is now launched. Sorry for all the throat clearing here, but we are going to want to write ourselves a Terraform provider. The thing with the Terraform registry is that it expects things to be named a very particular way, both with modules and providers. And so I'm going to assume that it wants to be named in a particular way. And the way I'm going to find that out is I'm going to go to the actual repo. So here you can see this one's Terraform provider AD. And I'll go back. And this one is Terraform provider Azure RM. I'm noticing they're using hyphens for everything, which is interesting because when I did it, I used underscores and it didn't cause me any grief, but I wasn't publishing it to here. So this might be an issue. Or not, it might be a non-issue because we're not publishing it to the Terraform registry, but it could be if we have to. So I'm just going to point that out here, okay? All right, so now that we've seen that convention, I'm going to go back over to my repo. And actually, you know what? I named it with hyphens, so we're going to be okay, okay? So I'm going to make a new folder here, and we're going to call it Terraform Provider Terra Towns. And the other thing I don't know is, like, if you write the word Terraform, does it have to be who is publishing it? I don't think so, because otherwise it'd be HashiCorp. But this is the pattern that I believe that we are supposed to follow. And in there, we are going to make a new file called main.go. When you create Go apps, they will have a main file. The code in this is going to get really lengthy. We're going to cram everything into a single file. Generally, you would break them up into individual files, like, in the Ruby file for the server.rb. We should break that up. But I'm trying to just make sure that we make this as simple as possible. It'll be more work to read the code, but we'll have less side effects or problems dealing with that. So the first thing that we want to do when specifying a file is just specify its package called main. What does that mean? Well, I can't tell you off the top of my head, but it's saying that we are creating a new package in Go, and this is the package name main when we reference it. And generally, in a Go app, you're going to always have a function. So it's just funct main, okay? And that's how we are going to start this application up. So I think what would be good is to do a sanity check and make sure that this package works as expected. So what I want to do is go over to ChatGPT and let's say, write me a Hello World Go package, okay, and see what it produces. And we'll try to use ChatGPT to help us along the way. But of course, having broader knowledge is going to help. So they have Hello World main.go. That looks good. And then it's going to import format because that's the way you can print. And that looks really good to me. So I'm going to go ahead and do something similar. We're going to go here and say import. Well, actually, we'll just write it in because it'll strip out the package if we don't put that in there. And that's kind of annoying. So we'll bring that over here. And I'm going to do this. And we will paste this line in here. And the LN stands for print line. So print, maybe it's / print line. That's a comment. And then we need to do import FMT, which stands for format. Okay, so it's format print line is what we're doing here. So that's the first part. The next part is that unlike Ruby, Go files are compiled binaries. They're not dynamically ran. So you don't run the script, you compile it into a binary and then you run the binary. So that's what we're gonna have to look at next. How to run it says go main, run main go. And so it'll look like it runs a script file, but it'll actually generate out, I think, a bin file or a binary file somewhere. But let's go ahead and see if it works. So we'll go here. I'm just pointing out that, Go is not something that I work in often, only when I need to. But I just want to show that, you can kind of figure these things out if you know, like, compiling and basic things like that. So we'll go and cd into this new directory. So this will be Terraform providers. We'll type in clear. And the nice part is because we're using Gitpod, we didn't have to install Go. It's already installed for us. If you're doing it local machine, I don't know what you're going to do because that's a lot of work to install. We'll go ahead here. We did go run main go, and it didn't dump any binary file. We'll check here, but I know that it does run a binary file. It makes a binary file. So it must be, I imagine it must be storing it somewhere and then deleting it. But you're going to find out that we do have to compile those. So we'll go back to ChatGPT. And so it says some things here. So package main declares the package name. The main package is a special in Go. It's at the execution of where the program starts. So we can copy this and just kind of document this as we go. And this is where we are cheating. We're using ChatGPT to help us through, but it can't do everything. And then we got to use our brains for that. So I'm going to go here and copy this. Right, so there we have our package main. I don't know if it's because there's a comment above it. Go was not able to find the modules in your workspace. Well, I don't know, it worked fine just a moment ago, so we'll ignore that error. So it might be because there might be a Go thing installed here, is there? Sometimes you can run and debug Go from VS Code. I don't know how to do that. I'm not a Go expert. But anyway, there's that. Imports the format package which contains the formatted IO. So we'll copy that. Not the best documentation, but it does kind of work. I put that, I don't know if the comments above matter. Sometimes in programming languages, the first line has to be whatever. I'm not sure in this case. So bring that over. Defines where the entry point of the application is. So we'll go here, and we'll just keep pasting this in, and we'll work through this. Okay, we'll bring these onto new lines. And it's best to put these in your own words. So I know like format, so this is short for format. It contains functions for formatted IO. So defines the main function, the entry point of the app. When you run the program and start executing from this function, makes sense to me. So that makes sense. So we'll go back over to here. Prints hello, the standard output. So yeah, and I'll just say prints the standard output. We don't cover standard output in this, but that's what bash terminals accept. Standard output, standard to the bash output down here. Prints to standard output. Okay, we'll go back over here. So creating a library package. If you want to create a library package, I believe we do, instead of an executable one, you need to name your package something like other than main and remove the main function. Here's how you do it. Um, did I do that? No, I didn't. I don't think so. So I'm not 100% sure about the advice there because in my implementation, I clearly have a main function still, so I don't believe it. The reason I know that this is not to be true is because when I want to write a Terraform provider, we can go look at other code. And so that's something that we can do. If we look at these ones, they're very large, so it might be very complicated. So it might be better to look at a community one that's very simple. So a lot of people probably start a provider, never finish them, or they're very simple. So we'll go into this one maybe. We'll take a look at the code. And we will look for the main.go file. And you can see package main, they're using it, so therefore it must be okay. And then if we go down below, you can see there is a function main here. So I think we're okay to use main, despite what ChatGPT is doing. But I know that we need to compile a binary and put it somewhere. So if we go over and just type in like Terraform writing a custom Terraform provider, HashiCorp does have information on it, but a more up-to-date exists here. So we'll go over here. And where is it? Custom prior SDK providers. And so that's basically what we're doing is we're creating this CRUD outline. And so is this how we'd actually create one? There's HashiCups. HashiCups is a project for learning HashiCorp. It's a really good project, but I'm not sure if that is going to be useful for us. So yeah, I'm not sure about that. But I was saying that it was very hard for me to find a guide, and I just had to kind of interpolate how to make one, and I was able to do it without really getting information online. So what we'll do here is I'll just say, write a custom Terraform provider for Terraform. It should have API actions that go to API U, and we'll just write them out here. API U user ID homes. We'll have post API U user ID homes UID. We'd have put API U user UID homes UID, and then we'd have delete API user UID homes user ID. And so I'm hoping that it can try to write me kind of a bit of a boilerplate template. We have to remember that this is a scope from September 2021. So it might not do a good job. It's also trying to write Go code, which is very difficult. Ruby code is a lot easier. Go code is very finicky, but it'll give us an idea on how to start our project. And so what it's done here is it says go mod init. And so we could have initialized the directory. I'm not going to do that because I think we can just create those files manually. It might be interesting to run it to see what happens. If I go here and we'll just go back a directory here. I'm just going to say, I'm going to paste this here, and I'm just going to say go test. I just want to see what it generates. And it created a Go module. If we go over here and look at what's changed, it made a Go mod file. So that's not very useful to me. So I'm going to go ahead and just delete that out. I was hoping for something a little bit more sophisticated than that, but that's fine. So we'll go back over to Go here. And let's take a look at what it's doing. So first, it's importing the Terraform plugin SDK. I believe that's what we have to use in order to create a provider. And you can see there's a structure. So we define a provider, and that provider needs a schema. So here it's accepting an API URL, and then it needs a resource map, whatever that means. Then it says implement the schema CRUD operations. So it's doing it in steps. So here it says we want to make a resource called home. It has a bunch of stuff here. Then we have our create home, our read home, our update home, our delete home actions. Notice it didn't really fill them in. This is implement the main function. So this is using version 2, which looks pretty good. And then it does this go build period Terraform provider my API. So yeah, I mean, it has a bit of a skeleton, but it really didn't write much for us. So again, I know what we need to do because I have the code for it. And so what I'm going to do is I'm just going to work our way through the one that I have that I know that works. And, you know, because again, it's just, there's not really good guides out there on how to make, at least I didn't find one for making a Terraform provider. And so I'll do the best to try to do that here with you. So the first thing is we need our main function. And inside of that, we need to define this plugin serve. So that's the first thing we need to do. And then we're going to put an ampersand here and do plugin serve ops. And I'm going to do curlies here like this. Okay, I'm going to take out this because we don't need that. And so that's the start here. So in order to make this work, we need to define a plugin for whatever reason. I don't know why. But I just noticed that that's how they always started out. So we go over here into this code, right? Here. And notice they always start with a plugin in the beginning. So they'll go down to main, and they'll have this plugin, right? And apparently they pass ops so you can do stuff, but I'm not going to do that. So we have plugin server ops. And then we have provider function, and then you provide it a function. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and import that. So we'll type in import. And I'm going to give this curlies. I'm going to put back in the print because it'll keep complaining that we're not using format. And so when we're importing multiple lines in Go, we can do this curly brace thing to import them all in one go. And that's probably what you want to do. So we are going to want github.com/HashiCorp, Terraform plugin, SDK version 2 plugin. Now, what made this really hard trying to use ChatGPT to make this is that there's a version 1 and a version 2 of this SDK. And ChatGPT gave me version 1, and then version 2 is not that well documented in terms of tutorials. And so I had to dig through examples until I got something that worked. So anyway, we have our plugin here. And so now notice we don't have an underline here. So we're setting up the plugin, which is some kind of template for setting it up. I should have bugged someone at HashiCorp to help me here to make sense of this, but I'm just telling you, like, sometimes you don't need to know what's going on. You just have to get it to work. And the first thing we want to do is provide it a provider. So we're going to have to create ourselves a function. Golang doesn't have classes. They have things called interfaces. So, you know, if you're trying to map your knowledge of something that's object-oriented, I'm going to tell you it's not going to work the same way. So we need to specify a provider. So we'll go down here and say func provider, and we'll do parentheses, and then we'll have to do schema provider curlies. How do I know that I need to do that? Again, looking at other code examples. If we go here, notice that this says provider.new. So their code is somewhere here. They probably put their provider in a folder called internal provider. I notice a lot like to do that. And we'll go in here and do provider go. We don't do this because I just had a lot of trouble doing this. I had a lot of trouble making subfolders files. I'm not that good at Go. But this is the function that was calling. So it says func new version string func asterisk schema provider. And so I go over to mine, and we don't have to do as much because we're doing it all in one file, but this is all we need for ours. So we'll do that. Then we'll define a variable, and we'll call the variable p, and we'll do asterisk schema dot provider. If you're familiar with the idea of pointers from like C and C++, probably not everyone here is C++ programmers, but one is referencing a pointer and one is addressing a pointer, if that makes any sense. But there's this ampersand, this asterisk. I don't know how to explain it in a simple way. I just know that we have to do it this way, okay? But we're defining a variable called p, which is going to have a reference to that provider. We've declared it. There's nothing in there. So now we're going to have to assign something to it. So we'll go here and we'll say p equals ampersand schema dot provider. And then we're going to define our main block. So we have in here resource maps. Okay, resource maps. We're going to need data source maps. One thing that might be interesting to see is, can we get any documentation on this by going to GitHub? These are all GitHub URLs. And I mean, if it was me, what I would do is I would make sure there's documentation on all these pages of README. I don't know if there is, but let's just see what HashiCorp did for this. And we'll go here and paste this in. and hit enter. And so that doesn't produce anything for us. We'll go back a step. And we do have some documentation here. And so they have this article here. This is where we were before. So it's really suggesting that if we read through this, we'll understand how it works. But I didn't read all this. I'm just going to tell you that. Install the HashiCorp's provider. Okay, how do we write the code ourselves? How do we write the code ourselves? So, yeah, I mean, I like HashiCorps. I just don't like this tutorial because it's just not getting to the point. I want to start writing one. Set up and implement read. So yeah, so they're cloning from a project. So the problem with this is it's just not showing us everything. Here we go. Main go. The contents of the main function consumes the plugins SDK plugin library, which facilitates RPC communication with Terraform core in the plugin. Terraform core is, I guess, talking to, I forget. It's in my course. I talk about Terraform core. I don't remember. But here they are doing plugin version 2, and we have the schema, and we have this. So this looks very similar to ours, so that's good. Explore the provider schema. So here, this is exactly what we're doing. Resource map and a data source map. So that was the next thing. So I think what we'll have to do is import this. Okay, so grab that. And I'm going to paste that above. Okay, maybe the tutorial is fine. Maybe I just didn't bother reading it. But the start, I don't like where the start is. But anyway, so we have a resource maps and a data map. We also actually have a schema in ours. So we'll see what they want for that. But we'll go back over here and we will take a look at this one. So this one has this. We'll go here. Paste that in. And then I'll go back over here and paste it in. And so in my code, what I ended up doing is, I mean, you have to declare them all in here. So I think they're just showing that in a future step, but we'll have to do that. We need one for schema as well, even though they don't have it in there. It's totally fine. Maybe they'll explain why. Maybe we'll understand how this works if I just keep with this tutorial. But yeah, so we have our 3 here. Resources map is, I guess, resources. Data sources is mapping to actual data that you want to maybe pull in. And then schema is probably the definition of fields and things that you can use. So we'll go back over here. And so it says the helper schema library is part of the Terraform core. Oh, like Terraform core as in maybe the Terraform core library, yeah. It abstracts many of the complexities, ensures consistency between providers. The resource supports resource maps and data maps, configuration keys. For here, any callbacks will be in the configure context function. And I do believe that we do use that as well. So we'll go down here, because I see it in my code, and we'll have to do p.configure context func, and then we'll assign it to a function that doesn't exist yet. And by the way, this is not supposed to be uppercase when it's in the same file. I think it's supposed to be uppercase when you're trying to export. So in Golang, a title case, that's what it is, title case function will get exported. So we don't actually have to name it title case here. I just did that because I originally was trying to have it as separate files and didn't do that. But anyway, so we'll go here, we'll say P, we'll say return P. Okay, so let's go keep reading and try to make sense of this. Where was it? Okay, so configuration keys, any callbacks to configure. You can use the configuration keys and callbacks to authenticate, configure the provider. You'll add them in the add authenticate provider tutorial. How do we build a provider? Go mod init Terraform provider HashiCorp, creating the new go.mod, go mod tidy. So there's that. Make build. I don't remember doing it exactly like that, but we haven't really filled everything out yet. So I don't suspect this will work correctly. So we'll keep going through and reading this here. Data source copies. Not very useful. Define the coffee schema. All Terraform resources must have a schema. This allows the provider to map to JSON. So they're just saying, like, what do you expect the schema to be? And the schema is defining these elements. So schemas, I think, what shows up actually in your Terraform state file. So for mine, the schema looks a lot simpler than that, because there's the schema at the provider level and there's schema at the resource level. So The schema is going to be the fields that we expect to input. So remember in our diagram over here, we said that the provider takes an endpoint, a user UID, and a token. And then the resource takes name, description, domain, town, and content version. These are the schemas, right? So in the schema, I'm going to assume that we have to provide an endpoint, user ID, and token in here. So that's what we're going to do. So we'll go over here and we'll say endpoint. And we'll say token. And we will say user UID. Okay. And then we'll have to define them. So this will be type, schema, type string. So we're saying it's a string. Then we have required. They're all required, right? Required is true. Description is true. The endpoint for the external service. The thing is, I never really found where the reference documentation is for this. Normally, when I want to code with something, I'll be like, find me the reference documentation or look that up. But I basically just cobbled things together based on other references without actually getting that there. But you can see that they're doing that type string. There is computed, and I don't do that for any of the values here. I'm not sure if that's going to matter. They don't describe what computed is, so I don't think it matters because mine's working and they're not computed. But we have an endpoint that we want. We want a token and a user UID. These are all going to be the same type. So go ahead and copy that. By the way, we can end this as a comma here. Other languages like JavaScript and Ruby, actually Ruby would hate this. It would complain, but Golang doesn't care. So we'll go here and do that. They are all required. So we'll go do this and this. The token is sensitive. So there is a field here that says sensitive. Did I spell that right? I think I did. And so what that means is that it will mark the token as sensitive. Sensitive to hide it in the logs. Okay, but that doesn't mean that it won't be visible. And that's what we talk about when we're concerned about like Terraform state files and security. Just understand that you can have sensitive data in your Terraform state file, but it's not necessarily exposed to other areas there. So, sorry, I'm just trying to get my mat under my feet here because my feet are starting to kill me. Just give me 2 seconds. I'm going to just move my mat. But anyway, yeah, so that's how we're passing it. Maybe the security could be a bit better on this, but this is just the way I know how to do it for this. So in production, you might need to do a bit more research, but I think it'll be okay. So we have our token, and so this token is, it will be the bearer token for authorization. We will have in here the description for the UID for configuration. We want to make sure that this is in a format of like a valid UUID, right? We want to make sure that is the case there. So what we can do is we could probably parse it. So I'm just going to go here and say, we're going to make a custom validator. We did this before for other things, but we'll just go here and say validate func, and we'll just say validate UUID. And let's see what ChatGPT can come up with here. So we'll say, write the Golang function validate UID for this Terraform provider. And let's see what it does. Because I don't want to figure that out. I have the code for it, but I'm just saying, like, I can't remember how I did it, if I asked ChatGPT or if I found something else. But let's see if it can figure it out for us. I mean, that's one way of doing it. I would rather not do it that way. Google has its own library for that. It's like github.com, Google UUID. And this might have a way for us to validate it. We'll go here. We're just trying to find the documentation. And so what I'm looking for here is a way to validate this. This would be looking like if we can parse it, I think that's all that really matters. Yeah, so they have a parse function here. And yeah, I mean, it's not the easiest thing to look at. So validate the Golang, validate the UID by parsing it using uid.parse. I might have also just like Googled and said like how to validate a UID in Golang. And see that they're using it. They're using Google UID. So this seems like I would prefer this method here. And let's see if it does it. ChatGPT does it. And I would say this looks very similar to what I did. So I'm going to take it for the most part. I'm going to probably tweak it. And we'll put this new function down below here. Okay. And I'm just going to look at this. Mine's a little bit different. So like, yeah, I don't know. I think I might just write this from scratch. So instead of this, I'm going to do v interface. Don't ask me what all these inputs are. I'm not 100% sure. So like, well, it takes an interface and then it takes a string. And then we need WS. So, and this will be an array of strings. And then we'll have errors. And this will be an array of errors in case we have any. We'll bring this down. And then the first thing I want to do is print to my log. So I think we should start logging in this just to make sure we know what we're looking at. Okay. And I'll have to import log. Is it just log? What is it? Yeah, that's all it is. Good. So we'll go all the way down to the ground here. And we are going to say value : equals. It's like assign in something. I forget what it does, but it's important in Golang to do the assign and equals at the same time. And a lot of times for error handling, you'll see this underscore thing in Go. Don't remember. I have a Golang course. It's just unpublished, and I'd have to look at my notes for it. But anyway, so we're going to parse the UID with our string here, and if it can parse it, then it must work, right? And if not, then it's an error. And yeah, the syntax for Go is very, very funky here. But we'll go here, and I want to, if this doesn't work out, so if the errors are not nil here, then what it's going to do is it's going to append two errors, that error. And so we're going to format that error here, error F, and I'm going to just say invalid UID format. Okay. We'll go here and say log print. And I want to do the same thing. I'm just going to print the start and end here so we can easily find stuff. Okay. So there's our validate UID. Wow, that is really interesting, eh? So there's that. So that will validate that. We don't have any resource maps. We don't have any data source maps, which is totally fine. We have this provider config function. I wonder if we can try to compile with this as it is right now. So let's just keep this simplified right now. I'm just going to try to take some stuff out because I just want to compile with no errors. That's what I'm looking for right now. So we'll do that. And so we have this basic thing here. And I want to see if that compiles. So how are we going to compile this? We'll go here. How do I compile a custom Terraform provider for in Go? Let's see what it does. I didn't mean to put an L on the end there. We'll give it a moment here. Now, I remember that it's all by conventions, but you do need this Terraform RC file because the thing is that the Terraform provider is going to look out to the internet and it's going to say, hey, I can't find your Terraform provider. And so we have to tell it, override it to tell it where to look for that. So we're definitely going to have to create that line there. And so there's some of the information there. It's not the best, but I'm going to go and just fill in the gaps with what I have and what I know that does work. So again, I just have the other repo off screen here, and I'm just taking a quick look here. But we need to have a Terraform RC file. So that is what we're going to need here. It's supposed to be in a dot, or is it? Yeah, it is supposed to be dot. Why is mine not dot then? Do I copy it or something? Yeah, there's probably a reason for that. Okay, so what I'm going to do here is going to make a new file here. I'm going to call it dot Terraform RC. I don't know if RC stands for release candidate. I'm not sure why the file is called that. And we are going to have to define some stuff in there. So what we're going to want here is provider installations. And then we'll want file system mirror. And let's do this. We're going to tab in here, and I want to say path equals home gitpod dot terraform plugins. So the idea is that when you are using Terraform, there's a hidden directory called terraform.d. I didn't name that correctly. And it can have a folder in there called plugins. And if it finds that there is stuff there, it will load stuff from it. Okay, so I'm just going to say include local.providers. And we're going to make a new folder in this plugins directory, which may or may not exist. If we do ls, we can see if it exists. So we can go home, gitpod, Terraform. Yeah, it does exist. So we have our credentials file. That's where our credentials are stored when we use Terraform Cloud. But there is no plugins directory, so we'll have to create it. And then we'll have to create this local providers, and that's where we're going to have to put the binary file that we generate out. But I'm going to go here and type in direct, and we're going to say exclude, and we'll say local providers. Okay, and we'll have that in there. And so that means that it will now see this directory. And so we'll have to build our file into that, or our binary into that folder. So that's step one. The other step of it is we need to build the binary. And getting these steps was really hard to find. So I ended up creating a bin script for this. I did put it somewhere else, but I'm going to place it in here. So I'm going to go here and just say new file, and we'll say build provider. And I'm just going to go here and say this user bin bash. We got to do that right though. And there's a few things we want to do. There was an article I think I had. I'm going to just double check this. Maybe this was the article I had here. Yeah, Jason Zhang or Zhang wrote all about this, and this is actually how I ended up figuring out how to place it correctly, because there's a lot of different examples, and here they're saying like, okay, it's going to be here, and you need to write this and that. So this was a very useful article, and I'm just going to drop that in my code. Okay, but the first thing we need to do for the script has to go into this Terraform providers directory. So we'll just say cd, and I'm going to do project URL. I think that's what it is, right? Project URL. Clear. So cd project URL. Or echo project URL. What if I do that? Nothing. Well, isn't that what we called it? Am I crazy here today? Get pod YAML, where is it? Oh, project root. Okay. So I'll just go back like this, and we'll do workspace, sorry. So what we really want here is project root. Good thing I double checked that. And we're going to want to cd into the Terraform provider Terratowns directory. That's the first thing. The second thing we'll want to do is we'll want to, you know what I'm going to do is I'm going to name this without a period, because this file needs to go into the git pod terraform rc directory. It actually is not supposed to be here. It's supposed to be at home/git pod terraform rc. So I'm just going to name it without a period here. And I'm going to say cp, and we are going to do project root. Also, I'm going to just echo this out. Does this start with a trailing or / here? Say echo project root. Okay, and so what I'm going to do here is go / terraform rc, and we want to put this at home git pod terraform rc. Okay, so that's where it's supposed to go. Then we need to, because if we need to run and keep rebuilding this, we will want to clear things out. So what I'm just going to do is remove some directories. So we're going to say remove terraform d plugins. We're going to remove the .terraform file, because this is something we'll have to do repeatedly. Terraform, we'll have to remove the lock file every time we build it. And the way we need to build this is we'll type in go build -o terraform provider terratowns, and we have to specify a version. And well, Terraform or HashiCorp does not use semantic versioning because it has a V, but that's how you have to name it. Okay, you have to name your binaries like this in that format. And then we need to make sure that certain directories exist. So for this, it's going to be .terraform d / plugins, and then local.providers. Remember we said we had to create that directory. The P says it'll create all the subdirectories if they don't exist. Providers, local terratowns 1.0.0 / x86 64. I actually don't know which directory we need to have, so I did this twice. I did Linux AMD. So the thing is that when you build up binaries, based on the chipset that is in your, like on the compute, they have different rules. And so you have to build your binaries based on that. And so if you build it on Windows or Mac or stuff like that, these things can vary. And I don't know what folder it goes into, but I just put both of them there because it's going to go into one or the other. And this is the challenge of shipping binaries around. You can't just take a binary and give it to anybody. It has to be built for a specific OS and chipset and things like that. But anyway, so we create those two directories because I don't know which one we need to put them in. And I think I end up copying it twice. But after the binary is built, we're going to copy it. So we'll say Terraform provider terratowns _ version 1.0.0. And then we need to place it in the appropriate directory. So I'm just going to look here, and I think it's just we're going to copy this. I think we have trailing slashes here. I don't know if it matters, but I'm going to do that. And just to shorten this up, because this one's a bit long, I'm just going to make an environment variable up here, and we'll call it plugin dir, and we'll just shorten this up a bit because it's a little bit long. And I'll go here. Well, I don't want to delete the whole thing out, but we want to take this out. I'm just going to do this and take it out like that. And then that way I can shorten this like crazy. Say plugin dir. Plugin dir, okay. And so we have copy. And so we'll say plugin dir, and then I'll just do x86 64. And then we'll do Linux AMD 64. I'm going to repeat, if you're finding this really, really hard, you can just watch this video and copy and paste these afterwards. But I'm just trying to get you to absorb more stuff that's around Terraform, like Golang, because you might run into it when you're on the job for whatever reason. So, you know, don't freak out if you're getting a lot of problems, okay? Just watch the end and then copy and paste it in. But if you can do it on your own, that's better. If you can try to follow along, because you're building muscle memory when you're doing this, all this stuff with me here. Okay, so Terraform providers, Terratowns. I'm going to make this a bit easier and just like say like plugin name. I'm just trying to if there's a spelling mistake, I'm just trying to reduce that problems, but so I can update it in one place as opposed to multiples. So go here. It was right here, so we'll go here and say plugin name, and then this will be the same here. $sign plugin name. And so I'm hoping that this script is going to do what we want it to do. Before any of that, I just want to run it manually. This command, the go build, and see what happens. So we're going to go into our Terraform providers directory here. I'm going to type clear. And we're going to type in go build -o, and it's going to be the name Terraform provider Terratowns v100. All I want to see if it throws go errors. And we hit enter. It says cannot find main module, but found the git config in the space. So the issue is that I think it's expecting some additional configuration files. You know, when we did that, we initialized a plugin and made like a Go file. And I was like, screw it. I think that's what it wants. It wants that file. So we need a go.mod file. So I'm just looking off screen here what this looks like. So yeah, what we'll do is we'll make a new file here. And we'll just say go.mod. Okay, and we need to define a couple of things. We need a module up here, and I'm going to say, and you can just match this the same as mine because you're not going to end up publishing this in a repo separately, but we'll say exam.pro, copy this exactly as it is. Provider Terratowns. Don't put your own repo in here. It does not matter. So we'll do that. We'll say go version 1.20. We might have had a later version like 23. I'm sticking with 1.20 because I know it works. This line's really, really important because it's going to help us. And this is very specific to your machine. But I just remember when I did this was a big pain to figure out. But we need to say this address, because normally when you include a provider, it's expected to live here, right? And we need to map it locally and say it's actually coming from our local machine. So anywhere where this appears in our code, it's going to replace it with the local path, which is over here. So I'm going to go ahead and copy this path down below. Okay. And I mean, if everyone named the repos the same, then this all should be the same for us. But if it isn't, double check, okay? Because, you know, some people don't name things right. And you'll run into issues definitely there. So we need that, and we'll see what happens if we run this. It shouldn't just work because we'll need to include some stuff. We'll try this here. It says missing import path, which is fair enough. So on line 6 and 8, let's go here. But yeah, we need to import some things. So there are some things that we need to install. So we'll go say how to install Golang module within GoMod via the command line. I think this is a go add or something. Go get. So I'm not 100% sure. I'll be back. Yeah, it is go get, but just let me check something quickly. I might already have a list of the things that we need. I don't have a list, so I guess we'll struggle through this. But I'm not sure why it's saying missing import path on line 6 of 8. We don't have a line 6. We'll go ahead and hit up. Missing import path. We'll go ask go, see what it says. Maybe because we have no requires. Here's an example of how import statements should look like. Unless it's actually talking about our code. Hold on a second. Oh, main.go. It has nothing to do with this file. So we go to line 6, and we can see that there's an error. Missing import path. Missing import path. I don't see what's missing. Import. Make sure this path is correct. Oh. Did we muck it up? I don't think we did. Let me just double check my code here. I know we definitely, well, we don't use it yet because we have the GitHub down here, but there's clearly an error. Missing import path go list. Oh, you know what it is? It's parentheses. It's not curlies. There we go. Okay. So we'll go ahead and hit up and enter. And here it says, yeah, so we don't need to know the commands because it'll tell it. It'll say, no required module for this package, add it. So we'll go grab this line. There we go. And we'll hit enter. And we'll try to do a build again. It'll probably tell us about the other line. Yeah, it's telling me a little bit too much. So I'm going to scroll all the way to the top here. So we did schema, I think, and then we need to do plugin. Yeah, we did schema. So now we'll do plugin. And now if we go, we have a GoSum file. That's basically like your gemfile.lock or your package lock or any kind of lock file. And then in our main Go file here, or sorry, our Go mod file, now it should include these things required. We didn't have to write them in, which is nice. Okay, so we'll have to keep doing that as we add things. There's not too much that we add into this project. Like we use NetHTTP and UUID, but everything else is pretty straightforward. So anyway, coming back over to here, let's go ahead and see if we can do a build. And did it build? Fingers crossed. Come on, build. This first time you do a build, it's really slow. Just so you know, this is not unusual. So I'll just wait here a little bit. The first time is really slow and I'll see you back in a bit, okay? So we have some errors here. Let's go take a look and see what it's complaining about. Unexpected new line in composite literal, possibly missing the comma on line 16, column 25. So what I'm going to do is go here. We'll go to line 16. You can see that it's wrong because it's telling us that it's wrong. What is wrong with it? I'm not 100% sure. I'm double checking my other code. It actually wants a comma. The only language that wants a comma when on all lines. That's really interesting. Is there any other lines it's complaining about? 16, 48, 50, 51. So 48, same thing. 51, maybe the same thing. I'm not 100% certain on that one. Let me double check. Yeah, I think it wants one there too. Yep. Here maybe. And here. Nope, not on both. Here definitely. I would think it'd want one there though. Nope. But still throwing a little error here. In my code it shows that it has both of them. I'm gonna just look where these align up. So that's schema, yep. And this one goes to here. It definitely should have one on here like this. Like that. But then it throws this, so what's the problem? Cannot use map string resource value as a map literal. Okay. Oh, you know what? This says resource. It's supposed to say schema. There we go. That makes sense. And so now we don't have any little red squigglies except for this one. Log imported but not used. And that's okay because we end up using it later on down here. So let's not worry about that right now. And we'll go ahead and we'll hit up. We'll hit enter. And so it says log is not used. I guess we have to take it out if we're not using it. So that's fine. Just want to comment it out. Let it build. I really thought that it would just ignore it. But if we're not using it, it's got to go. And so now we have built it. And notice here that we have this binary here. This is a big binary. You can open it up. It's 20 megabytes. We do not want to commit this to our code base. So what I'm going to do is, I'm just going to double check here. I'm going to go over to our git ignore file. Okay. And we're going to ignore this. So we'll say Terraform provider Terratowns. And we're never going to have a version other than 1.0.0. So I'm just going to rename this, copy it, and I'm just going to explicitly ignore this file. In fact, we could just say even like v and then asterisk, and it should ignore it. There we go. But yeah, so that sets us up for building out a binary. So I think this is a good place to stop because I know there's a lot of stuff here and this is going to be more than one video. But I'm hoping in the next video, most of the code will be in here. And then the video after that, we'll be focusing on actually testing it. So what I'll do is I'll just stop here. If the binary is building for you, then you are in good shape. If it's not, then look at the code here and try to pull it. Even though this isn't a feature, I'm going to, like it's not a complete feature, I'm still going to tag it because I think that if I don't do that, then people can't copy and paste here and they're gonna have a hard time. So we'll go here and just say 47, work in progress, setting up the skeleton for creating a custom Terraform provider. Okay, and we'll go ahead and we will commit that. And I'll sync those changes. I'm going to go back over here. I'm going to create myself a pull request. I'm going to make a new pull request. And we're going to drop this down. Hello. What's going on? We'll refresh here. Why won't it, what's going on here today? GitHub, what's going on? GitHub status. Refresh again. Oh, this is Exam Pro code, that's why. I have mine in my own account, sorry. I didn't even know there was an Exam Pro one there. There we go. So we'll go over to pull requests. I'll create a new pull request. I'll drop this down. We'll go to Terraform providers. We'll keep using the same branch, but I'm going to create this pull request. I'm going to create it here, and we'll go ahead and merge this in. And I'm going to say git checkout main git pull git tag 2.1.0 because last time we were putting the mock server in, right? So this will be this, and we'll do git push tags. Before I push them, I'm just going to double check these are in the right place. Okay. It is good. I'm going to do git push. And you can stop your workspace now. I'm going to continue on, so I don't want to stop it, and I'm not going to show in the next video me spinning up the environment. But I'm just trying to give you a break where you can stop and come back to this and make notes and do things, okay? So let's see you in the next one, all right? Ciao.